My name is Florence. Thank you for your inquiry. Please wait while I consult my gauges. The temperature is 60 Fahrenheit. The time is now 10 minutes to 1 anti-meridian. Humidity is 55%. The barometric pressure is currently 1,042 hectopascals and is falling. This suggests the weather will become very dry. My conclusion is that this is the incorrect juncture for a cup of tea. Please do not imbibe yourself at this time. I would greatly appreciate your future consultation to decide whether it is or is not time for tea.
So the next job is to add a barometer to replace the calendar from the Christmas event where she told jokes, and some sort of humidity detector. Someone gave me an old-fashioned sort of barometer thing, so I've managed to get a humidity sensor off it, which I think will be fine the way it is, and also the works from a small barometer. There's the pressure cylinder thing that works the arm, so I'm going to work that out. What I've done is measure all the measurements of the screws and things that are on the other side, all this, so I can mount it on a piece of acrylic, and I've done a drawing of all the holes and everything so I can sit that on, and the idea is I'm going to have an acrylic bit on the back that I can adjust, and then the works, and then a dial with all the gauges on, all the measurements on, that will fit in the front and will be engraved from wood. So here we are, we've got the cut out 2mm acrylic. So this is the barometer dial in hectopascals. It's the next day, and I'm very, very happy to say, having just checked with Florence herself, that it is 110 hectopascals.
The barometric pressure is currently 1,010 hectopascals.
Brilliant. And it's still 62% humidity, which that gauge is still showing. So that's brilliant. So my next job is to work out how to mount these two gauges into this panel, which I can handily remove because I stuck it down with glue tack just because I couldn't work out anything else for that Christmas event, and this panel just slides up really nicely, which makes it very simple to replace the calendar with these two gauges. So I'll have a think about how best to do that. Having thought about it for a split second and arranged them roughly where I want them, I've realised that all I need to do for this bottom gauge is to cut a hole for the insert at the back, and for this top one I'm just going to cut out a hole exactly the same diameter as the dial, the gauge that I cut out of wood. I decided to use wood because it didn't stand out too much. When I first started thinking about the Florence's gauges, I realised that plastic dials engraved white and black just detracted from her too much, and after fiddling around I realised that using this wood, the plywood, but without any stain on it, would cut and would engrave perfectly well and not detract from Florence herself. That'll do. Just test it. Yes, let's risk it. This is the ridiculous thing, because I've now had to open up 2D Design. Click on there, 15.8. That's it. That's my complicated CAD drawing. Now I need to go to File, Export, DXF, Desktop. I've got a folder called Temp. Save. Yes. Okay. Close that. Open up this one. Go File. Oh no, I want a new one. New. No. File. Import. That's the wrong one. Desktop. And there you have it. It's as simple as that. Just because this laser software doesn't have a way of drawing dimensioned objects, or at least I haven't found it. If anyone can tell me different, I'd be very pleased to hear. Right, we'll send that through to the laser cutter. Come on, delete all. No, go on. Right, and then we can cut out the, what is it? Humidity meter hole. Test it. Oops. Looks okay, and start. Right, we've got our holes, so let's go and see whether the gauges fit. So a moment of truth. This one, beautiful. Yeah, perfect. Dab of super glue, Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. Lovely. What about this one then? Oh yeah, I made the holes 0.1mm smaller than it was before, and that's perfect. It's amazing when you get such close tolerances, like 0.1 of a millimetre, or even less than that, that things suddenly stop fitting. It's really, well, I suppose that isn't surprising really, it doesn't make any sense at all. But you know, you have a gap and it gets tighter and tighter, and then suddenly it doesn't fit. Which is really common sense, I suppose. Stupid thing to say. These are useful things. They came with a bending tool that I bought years ago that bends metal, and I've never used it. I used it once, I think, but these things are fabulous. They're so useful for weights or for jobs such as this, where you want to hold something up but not up, if you see what I mean. Right, let's get this lined up. Yeah, alright, well that looks fine. Okay, turn it over. And then rest that on there. Hold that. I might put another weight on the back of that. Perfect. Right, and that isn't anywhere near the edge. That's okay. Right, let's see if I can retrieve the last few drops. I will mention another issue I have. In preparation for Florence going to Whitby Steampunk Festival, which is very exciting. We went last year, it was the first festival we did, and it was brilliant, a really good time, loads of really interesting, very nice people. So we're looking forward to going there with Florence. Only thing is, Florence's horn. There's Florence's horn, where the sound comes out. It comes out from the loudspeaker, or as we like to say, the wax disc, and it comes up here and it comes out the top of the horn, but it's very quiet. Let me show you. And she comes to life. I thought it would be a lot louder because there's a 2-watt amplifier in there, but it just isn't. And you can hear it clearly at home in a quiet room, but you always forget just how noisy public places are. So here we are. Let's say something. Come Come on, Florence, you can do
My
it.
name is Florence. Thank you for your inquiry. Please wait while I consult my gauges.
And that's just too quiet. You just cannot do it. And for the Christmas event, the banker's Christmas party, the corporate thing, when Florence was telling jokes, let me switch Florence off again actually. I added a jack socket in the back and had a separate little MP3 amplifier thing.
The temperature is 66 Fahrenheit.
So you can see the difference that it makes just with that. But again, that was
The time is now 17 minutes past 12, anti-meridian.
But that was still drowned out completely by all the people having a nice time. How dare they?
Eyes down for a full house.
I was thinking with the horn that she's got of making something that would plug in the top with two pipes coming down that would act like speaking tubes that you could then hold up against your ears, but I wasn't happy with that. I thought the more I thought about it, it'd really spoil the look of the cabinet, and it would just look wrong with pipes coming down, scratching things, and only two people could hear what she was saying. So I came back to the original idea, which was to add some external amplification. And I thought about where I could put it. Everything is filled up now, completely packed. There's a little bit of space behind these two panels, and that's it. Underneath, I mean, if I take this off, you can see there's absolutely no room for anything at all. Nothing. The whole thing is absolutely packed full, for better or for worse. There's a little gap underneath in this base part. Let's put that back on. Nice tight fit. Doesn't even need screws. How lovely. So, plan, whatever it was, is to build a little platform and to put speakers underneath and have the sound coming out the front. That's not bad, and I thought, okay, following on from my original idea with the whole of this project, let's use something that I've already got. So I'd already got this amplifier out of a pair of PC speakers. That runs off 5 volts, so it's ideal, and it's not bad. So I used that, connected that up to the output I'd wired into Florence, into the back of her, and I had these old speakers, and they're full range speakers off an old television, and they're really nice, they're really good quality, Sony ones. If you take the packet or the box apart, the enclosure, there's the speaker, nice big magnet. They're probably about 20 or 30 years old now, so technology has moved on, the magnets would be smaller. They're full range though, and the fact is that Florence's voice is, I only need her voice, and the human voice is around 1000 hertz, whereas these speakers and other big speakers would work from probably, I don't know, 100 hertz, possibly 50 hertz even, right up to whatever it is, I can't remember. But I only need her voice, so I can dispense with big speakers. So I thought, after lots of umming and ahhing and trying it, and I did actually try it, wired it up, and it was just as loud as the MP3 player. So that ruled that out. So I thought, right, don't start cutting anything up. Think, retire, and have a think about it overnight. Which is what I did. And it struck me, okay, let's find out whether you can get mid-range, which is about 1000 hertz, roughly starting at that, speakers. And sure enough, you can. So I've ordered a couple, fairly reluctantly, but I have ordered a couple from Radio Spares, RS, sorry, used to be called Radio Spares. And they're 8 centimetres diameter, roughly, 35 millimetres deep. So they're ideal. I've also, I was going to use that amplifier, but in the end, I did some research and I needed something more powerful. And this is more powerful. This is by Adafruit again, who make lots of things for the Arduino, and it's one of these amazing modern amplifiers. Unlike old ones where you have huge power transistors and things, these actually do something very clever, modulating frequencies and voltages and all sorts. What it means is you don't need any big heat sinks. This will actually run up to 20 watts in stereo, so 20 and 20 watts, and that's fantastic. It will also run off 5 volts, it will give less power there. And it's nice and small. It can be controlled digitally by the Arduino, but I don't want that. I want to keep things simple for a change. So you can link a couple of little solder pads on it, and it comes with a little potentiometer, a little volume control that you could put there, so I can actually just control it. So I'm going to use that, and that can be hidden in or behind there. And it suddenly dawned on me, my original drawings of Florence, she had a backdrop, and I'd forgotten about that. So I thought, okay, as you can see from the original drawing, it was red, and so I cut out a bit of this just to drape over the back, but that just looks wrong. It's too much colour there. It detracts again too much from Florence, so that's no good. Oh, okay, because I was thinking I could hide a speaker behind this cunning plan. And then I was looking around the workshop and found this beautiful piece of fabric. I say, how delightful. Which was a napkin that I bought down for some other project or something, and it's been sitting around ever since. I'll put that down there, and I'll get it past her bum. Put that down there. It looked fantastic. Well, it sort of looks fantastic. It's a bit creased and everything now, but it didn't stand out too much, and I think that would look really good. I think that would work. So I think this napkin may cease to be a napkin fairly soon and become a nice little screen along the back. That means in turn, and this is where I just suddenly thought this is the right idea. If you've seen previous videos, here's the back of Florence. I ran out of room down here with the rotary thing, her machine, and it hit the back panel, so I had to do something about it, so I built this extra little bit on. And what I thought I can do up here, because the two speakers are only 35mm deep, I can build a nice little ornate twiddly bit on the back, the box. The speakers can then be mounted there and there, and the great thing about that is that the audio from them will just be projected straight forwards, where you're standing, where the viewer is standing, where you want to hear what Florence is saying. Brilliant! So, 2 holes to cut in there and this back bit to make, but having a nice big speaker, 1000Hz speaker, so perfect for mid-range, straight out, in your face, 2 of them, with whatever many watts per channel at 5 volts, I think it's 3.8 watts, but it'll still be a great improvement. The other nice thing about mid-range speakers is that you don't really have to worry about a cabinet. Cabinet volumes and all that sort of thing only become important with lower frequencies, when the size of the speaker gets far more important, because you've got to move more air for the lower frequencies, whereas the higher frequencies you don't need to worry about that. In fact, to prove a point, here's the actual driving part of I never remember which way to turn this now. Of a what do you call it? I've got piezoelectric tweeter, and tweeters work at much higher frequencies, right at the top end. And it's so long since I've done any sort of speaker designs and things, I can't remember what that is. Probably, I don't know. I'm not even going to hazard a guess. I'll probably put it in the titles or something. But this is really, it's a very, very stiff cone. It doesn't take very much energy at all to run it. I tell you what, a lovely piece of news. I was thinking, how on earth can I cut holes in this top bit? I can't use the laser cutter because obviously this is all fixed together and Florence is on the other side, and Florence needs to be kept upright with all those pulleys and chains and things. So a laser cutter isn't an option. I was thinking about circular saws or hole cutters and things, and they make so much vibration, make such a lot of dust and mess and splintering. And I turned around about and I was thinking, how can I do this? And then noticed that there are screws here. Now I'm really hoping, and I can't remember, but I'm really hoping that I didn't glue this back bit on, that I screwed it on, and that'd be fantastic. Because I can take this off, put it on the laser cutter, get it to cut the holes for the speakers, and also the fixing holes and everything. Fabuloso. Right. Yeah, brilliant. You can see in this side there's a titchy little barometric pressure sensor. I've done the drawing on 2D design and imported it into here. There's three parts to it really, three different colours. There's the red colour, which is the hole cut out for the front of the speaker and the four mounting holes. There's the rebate, which is in black, which I need through the back part of the ply, the back layer of ply. There's also a little blue bit in the corner, which is in the wrong place. That's interesting. That should be far further over. I'll go and recheck that, but that is what I'm going to line up with. I'm going to immediately go and say to cut. You can say for each colour whether you want to cut or not, or output. I'm going to say no output to there, because that's what I want the laser cutter to line up with. That's what I'm going to line the little red dot up with. Okay, I've lined the laser up with the top right hand corner. Let's just test it. What is going on? I haven't downloaded the drawing. Oh, Bennett. I'm so lucky I tested. So many ways to cut holes in the wrong place. Right, let's try that now. Ridiculous. So that's the overall size of the drawing. So I think that's fine. So I'm going to nervously press the button, start. I'm not going to cut out the other one next. First of all, I have to somehow try and remove these. I'm hoping I didn't glue it too much, otherwise there's going to be a lot of chiselling involved. Oh, why do I do these things? It always amazes me how wrong you can get it if you move it, which obviously I had to move it halfway through to rebate it, and you just, you line it up with a little red spot in the corner, and look, I mean it's like about 4mm difference there. That's crazy. And there, I mean, how can I have done that, you wonder? And down a bit, it's ridiculous, but if the worst comes to the worst, I haven't got the speakers yet, so if I need to chisel out a little bit just along that side, it's not the end of the world. Also, this side won't be seen because it's going to be covered up by some exciting wooden thing, and this side isn't going to be seen because it's going to have fabric on it, and that has just gone through, except where it tried to cut through this bit as well. So on the whole, not too bad. A little bit frustrating, but it's all part and parcel of it. Alright, having given it a little bit more thought and getting this together, I think I was looking at bits of OG and moulding that I'd got, and I've got nothing that needs to, I think it needs to stand at about, well, exactly 37 clearance for the speakers. And I was thinking, what would look like this, or I had some that looked like that, or some that looked like this, or even some that looked like that. So I've had to go off to B&Q, and I've bought some of this, which is a classic OG shape. If I look at the end of it, focus, it's flat at one end and then does the twiddly bits and ends quite thin at the top, which will be fine. What I plan to do with it, and the room isn't long enough to show you with that, so I'll have to show you with a replica model type, is I'm going to fix a piece there and a piece there, piece across the top, that's why I left a gap there, and I was thinking it's going to look odd sticking out that far, just this top bit. So what I think I'm going to do, despite having put so much effort into getting this bit made, you live and learn, I'm going to make it go right down to the bottom, or yeah, right down to the bottom. I've got the four sides cut with the miters on each corner. What I'm going to do, because it's such a big fragile thing and not all of it's going to be fixed onto Florence's enclosure, so I think I'm going to glue it together down here. I'm going to glue this one in properly because that's going to eventually be at the bottom, two screws screwed into the base to support that. I've got it all clamped down. I lined up and clamped down a block at one end, which is going to be glued into it, another one that's free at the other end, so that I could then line it all up, clamp the mitered parts together with a rubber band, or a couple of long rubber bands. Always a bit iffy because sometimes they just flick off and shoot all the bits of wood around the place, which is hilarious. And then a little rebated bit to support the ply, just gluing and holding in place with whatever came to hand, and the pegs just open up wide enough to allow them to clamp it. Right, it's the next day and hopefully this is all dry. So that's what we've created, and that is going to go, that's going to go like that. Fixed at the bottom into this solid wooden bit here with a screw. Top bit will be glued onto this panel and it'll just sit over this other panel, and I think once it's stained and everything that'll look great, and perfect space for the two loudspeakers. Right, the moment of truth. Cut out. Let's have a look. Well, it's not bad. Because I'm going to be putting screws through here into this little strip of wood here, I don't want it to split, so I'm going to drill some very small pilot holes, I think 1mm diameter for each of these, just to make sure. It'll also help the screws to go in more easily. Another day, another dollar. Just working out, this is all now dry, varnished, just using masking tape to work out where to line this up on. Put a couple of screws in the bottom. It's not going to be fixed to this bit at all, it's not important, and also, as with everything you build, you want to have some way of getting it apart again in case you need to fix it or something. And then this will just go up there and that'll leave enough room for the two speakers. This is going to be fixed to this top bit because I can unscrew this and get the whole lot off. Then, while I was just doing that, the doorbell rang. Yes! A very exciting looking package, and funnily enough, a screw that sticks to the outside. What could it be? Let's have a look. Ooh, Christmas all over again. Aha! This looks very exciting. So, this is one of the speakers, one of the two speakers that I bought, the Midrange. So it's really quite sort of stiff, the cone, and transparent, because it's actually a waterproof speaker, but that's sort of coincidental to my needs, hopefully, as I don't plan to get Florence soaking wet. It's quite nice because you can see how it works almost. There's the two connections on the back, big magnet, and 2 flexible wires that go to a coil that you can't see that's wrapped around this middle. It's actually within this magnet, and as the electricity flows backwards and forwards very fast, it means that it creates an electromagnet that moves the cone. The cone is very stiff, like I say, because with mid-range, with sort of 1000 hertz, 1 kilohertz, which is sort of speech-ish, you don't need very much movement. It can be quite rigid. Oh, look at that damage. Ooh, heavens to Betsy. The rest, the actual cone though, looks okay. It does amaze me when you buy stuff and it's well packaged and then you get it and someone has put a lot of effort into destroying it. Right, so let's have a look then. Yeah, I think once I've bent that straight, I think that'll be absolutely fine. Lovely. That's starting to look really nice. I just checked that the back would actually clear the speaker magnets, and it is perfect. It's just flush. They're just below the level of the ply, so that's great. It's lovely when a plan comes together. Brilliant. Well, I've got the speakers fixed in, or the drivers as they're meant to be called. They're each 4 ohm and 20 watts RMS, or 30 watts peak to peak, so that's great. You can really drive them quite hard. It's the size of the magnets and the thickness of the coil and things, so that's brilliant. Both facing towards whoever's looking at Florence. So perfect, the sound's coming out in the right direction and everything. Lovely. Now my next job is to work out how to cover this with this fabric. I think I need to do some ironing first as it's creased. I think what I'll do, I may be lucky to get it stretched. I think I'll use spray adhesive just to stick it over the whole thing. Yeah, and then it can tuck back here with those 2 side panels, just pushing it, and that would be brilliant. It also tucked just underneath here. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about the top. So let's get on with that now. Just thinking about this, because I've got the fabric here, and I realised there's a bit of the pattern that's symmetrical, which doesn't need ironing, so that's great, don't have to bother with that. But I want to stick it down with photo mount, because that's spray adhesive that's pretty strong, and it's permanent. So I was thinking, well, if I spray the back of the fabric, I suddenly realised it's going to stop the sound getting through, it's going to clog it up with sort of rubbery glue. So that's no good. And I can't spray this because it'll get all over everything and all over the cones. So what I'm going to do, I've found the 2 bits that are cut out with the laser, put double-sided tape on them. I'm going to then rest this fabric over the top, press it down, and then I can spray the back of the fabric, and these 2 will act as sort of stencils to keep any of the adhesive off the speakers. So it really does smell, so I'm going to spray it in the spray booth right speedily before it sets. Let's try. You can see on the back there's the 2 holes. Put that there, just along the top. While the glue is still sort of dry, gosh, it's got a lot heavier with those magnets in it. Let's get this fitted onto that. There. So what I'm going to do now, that's fantastic, I'm so pleased with that. What I need to do now then is to get the speakers wired up. Part of me is thinking about whether to put the amplifier, which is that. It's still, like I said before, I mean this is just nuts, it's crazily small. 220 watts, so that's 40 watts in total, from a titchy little chip and 1 little MOSFET thing there. Absolutely incredible. In the old days that would have been a huge chunk with massive heat sinks. And I think it works. It's a class D, which I think I'm slowly discovering uses pulse width modulation, which I've mentioned in a previous video because it's what you use to control the speed of motors and things like that. I think it uses that, if I'm reading information right, so it switches on power very, very quickly on and off to drive the speaker cones backwards and forwards, which is much more efficient, and it doesn't provide any heat because apparently, well, anyway, I don't know, I'm wittering on. So I could put that down here. Crazy, I just can't believe how small that is. Never thought I'd see the day when the actual amplifier was smaller than the speakers. So I could put that down there. I'll have a think. Right, I've got the amplifier wired up and connected to the speakers and connected to a power supply and temporarily at least connected to a little preset potentiometer. Where is it? There it is. Which was supplied with the amplifier. If you join 3 little solder pads together, you can control it with this, the volume, rather than having it controlled by something like an Arduino, so that's fabulous. Keep it simple. Because it said in the instructions for the amplifier that it can run off up to 14 volts and it gets a lot louder the more voltage you supply. The minimum is 5 volts. 5 volts is handy because it's what the rest of Florence runs off, the Arduino and all the motors and everything else. So I'm going to start with 5 and just see whether that is enough voltage. Right, the moment of truth. Ready with the volume control, just in case I need to adjust it.
My name is Florence.
Ooh.
Thank you for your inquiry. Please wait while I consult my gauges.
Wow, that's fabulous. So if I turn it right down with the little volume control, let's see how loud it is. This will be the original volume.
The temperature is...
Yeah, so you see that.
Fahrenheit.
I'll wait till she comes back to the middle actually so that I can get a proper comparison.
Now, eyes down for a full
So this is the original volume.
Legs 11. The barometric pressure is currently 1,048 hectopascals.
That's amazing.
This suggests the weather will become fair.
That is so loud.
The relative humidity is 57%.
That is fantastic.
My conclusion is
That is
this is
absolutely
the correct junction
brilliant.
for you to partake in a cup of tea. I sincerely hope you gain immense
Sure.
pleasure from your brew. 12, 13, 14.
So that is fantastic. I couldn't have wished for that to be better. 2 speakers in your face, straight, well, in your ears actually. That volume is incredible, and that's on 5 volts still. From that little amplifier, it's unbelievable, absolutely brilliant. And the speakers are brilliant because they're really good at voice frequencies. So no energy is wasted with lower frequencies or higher frequencies. Perfect. And the background, so you can't see the speaker's arms. So pleased. This is fantastic. Might have to celebrate and go and have some lunch. In fact, I think I will. Brilliant. Here's the new cabinet back, and I'm really pleased with that. It looks great. Lots of lovely little dome head brass screws, and that's come out really nicely. That looks absolutely fine. Also, the hole that I made that was annoying me because it had a plastic jack socket in it, I've found a little plumbing fitting, a radiator bleed valve, which just fitted in the hole, so I've glued that in. And that's nice. I've ordered a proper volume control potentiometer, which is just a larger, mechanically larger version of this, so I can fit it in the side or the back or something and have a nice brass control knob to control the volume. That's why that top isn't on. So I'm so pleased with that. Really, really pleased. It just has worked out beautifully.
My name is Florence. Thank you for your inquiry. Please wait while I consult my gauges. The relative humidity is 57%. The barometric pressure is currently 1,045 hectopascals. My conclusion is that this is the incorrect juncture for a cup of tea. Please do not imbibe yourself at this time. I would greatly appreciate your future consultation, decide whether it is or is not time for tea.
thanks very much for watching. Hope it's been interesting. Hopefully I'll see some of you at Florence's debut, the Whitby Steampunk event in February. Be brilliant, looking forward to it. Now Florence is ready, I need to carry on developing the gauge kits that I'd like to have available at Whitby. Fabulous!